Matt Robison, Beyond Politics, and today, the outrageous truth behind Elon Musk and how it sheds light on Donald Trump, the tariff fight, and the overall MAGA meltdown that America and the world are living through. In the course of doing research for my last article, I came across the work of Shane Almgren on Substack. He writes the really excellent Substack column, The Trumpland Diary. And over this past weekend, his recent article, titled with the same title that I gave this episode, came out. It's called The Myth of Musk, How Elon Conned the World. And the take-home message, one that he meticulously supported throughout, was that the entire story of Elon Musk and his success is basically a fabrication. The real story reads a lot more like a Ponzi scheme, and it has eerie parallels to the story of Donald Trump. And reading it was particularly poignant over the past few days as reports emerged of a growing rift between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and between Musk and the pro-tariff elements of the Trump administration, which is basically most of the Trump administration. And so I wanted to hear more about the real story of Elon and how knowing it helps inform our thinking about what he's after and what might ultimately unfold in the months to come. What we're seeing over the last 24 hours is the shooting war between Musk and Peter Navarro and the pro-tariff forces in the Trump administration. And it kind of broke into the open over the weekend and then on Monday with Musk going after Peter Navarro in a storm of posts on X. He called Navarro a moron. He called him other things that I'm not going to repeat here because they get into some salty language. And he essentially seems to be a meltdown over not just trade, but sort of the value of his own company. And I think that leads Shane right into where you landed in your absolutely outstanding deep dive piece, which is the myth that Elon Musk has built up and the ability for him to follow kind of this pathway to where he's at that's been built on. It's sort of like a Ponzi scheme of one kind of undeserved success falling upwards into the next and kind of leveraging it into a bit of money that he could then put into someone else's ideas, someone else's creativity, and take credit for. It has a shocking parallel to the success story of Donald Trump. And you laid it all out in this very well-researched, very compelling way. So let me just, first of all, welcome to the show. And second of all, would you just, maybe you could start us all with where you start in the article, which is, how would you describe, what's the popular image? What's the bio, the story that Elon Musk likes to portray about himself?
Sure. I'll tell that very brief story. And then I love what you said, this feud that's going on where he calls Peter Navarro a moron. It was the name calling, the petty, petulant, childish name calling. And it was back when the Thai soccer team had got trapped in the cave. And I don't know if this was the thing that switched me from the Elon fanboy that believed in the story I'm about to tell, that just had me going, wait, why is a guy that I thought was this person, why is he stooping down to this level? And I'll come back to that. But the story that we all heard, that I grew up hearing, was he was from a working class family in South Africa and had aspirations to go study abroad and had received a bunch of offers from Ivy League schools because he had sold a piece of computer software that he built when he was 12. Ended up double majoring, I think, at Penn, and had got a PhD from Stanford, and it was actually in my research for this that I learned about Zip2. I didn't know about that one initially. I thought the first thing that he had started was PayPal. And that was the story. He invented PayPal. He sold it to eBay for an astronomical sum, as $1.5 billion, I believe. And he took that money and he founded Tesla, and then he founded SpaceX. And as those companies sort of took off and people got more and more aware of who he is, I mean, I vaguely knew his name, but I really honed in and started following him when he wrote the white paper on the Hyperloop. And I was like, what? like those, the bank canisters, those things, but like moving people and vacuum sealed, magnetic pulled. I was like, this dude is next level. And I mean, I remember seriously thinking Tony Stark. And I
You know
thought
what it
that, but
reminded me of? When I started reading your
yeah.
piece for fans of the movie Glass Onion, it
Mhm.
reminded me of the mega rich billionaire in that movie that Ed Norton portrays. And the
Yes.
realization, sorry, spoiler alert here, the realization at the end of the movie that his kind of visionary brilliance, it's all bull. It's all completely invented. And in fact, he's kind of a moron. He's not actually that smart. Now, I'm not trying to say that Elon Musk is not somewhat smart, that he doesn't have any talent whatsoever, but it seems like his fundamental skill in life is the exact same skill that Donald Trump can really lay claim to, which is he's a terrific hype man for his own brilliance, for his own ability in business. And by the way, Barbara Binstein is pointing out here in the chat, boy, Barbara, you always have the best chats. That there's another kind of connection point here in the current war in the Trump administration. Peter Navarro made up his economic expert, Ron Vera,
Mhm.
much Donald Trump made up his alter ego. What was the name of his alter ego?
John Barron.
John Barron.
Yeah.
And so what you have here is this collection of people who are sort of, they're fabulists, they're fantasists
Yes.
who make up their own mythos about
Mhm.
themselves. And there are enough suckers out there to believe it. So, okay, this is me. I'm jumping way ahead of the story. Tell me, you ran down the truth on this initial company, on
Mhm.
PayPal, on Tesla, on SpaceX,
Yeah.
on the Hyperloop, on
The
each of
Boring
these,
Company. Yeah.
the Boring Company.
Yes.
What stood out to you the most? What surprised you the most? That was the biggest divergence between the myth of Elon Musk and the reality that you uncovered with an investigative journalist's mind and a little bit of Google access?
I think I had got into it a little bit because I was researching a piece a couple months ago on the PayPal mafia. And so I had to find out who Peter Thiel was and these other guys that were the big heavy hitters in Silicon Valley. And finding out, that's when I first learned about the merger because he had started out, he had the X.com before, not the Twitter X, but the original payment company was X.com. And it was peer to peer banking. And Peter Thiel across town it was his fiercest competitor, I guess, had a company called Confinity. And Confinity had a peer-to-peer, if you had a Palm Pilot, the infrared sensors, you could transfer money, and that transfer protocol was called PayPal. And they decided to merge the two companies together. And after the companies merged, they decided they were going to focus in on Thiel's PayPal, the payment thing, as opposed to Elon's X.com banking. And as they decided they were going to go in Thiel's direction, they realized that his coding was rudimentary, I guess. It's been described as utilitarian. And he had built it on a Windows server, and it was too bulky and too heavy to handle the scaling that needed to be done. And the Confinity guys, the software engineers, were like, really, we need to rewrite the code on Unix. And Elon was pushing back, and he was adamant that no, no, guys, we can do it my way. And they were saying, no, it's just not really feasible. They had appointed him CEO over PayPal, and I guess he was off vacationing on his honeymoon, and the board just decided to replace him. It was a coup or a mutiny, whatever you want to call it. They replaced Musk with Elon, and he had put into his separation agreement, which I think I actually found the legal document and linked it in the article that you read, that legally he had to be referred to as a founder of PayPal, which he wasn't. He was a founder of X, and then the merger became PayPal, but they went in the direction of PayPal. But just that his code, the invention itself wasn't really his. The code was deemed sort of inferior and needed to be reworked. The board decided the company was just being mismanaged. So the technology brilliance wasn't really there. The managerial acumen wasn't really there. And then the legal fallout from it, trying to get a clause in that basically necessitated him being referred to as a founder. It's like, this guy is just, I mean, it's character flaws, it's business flaws, it's coding flaws. There were just, it reminded me a lot of Trump, like you said. So that was one of the big ones. It's like, wow, that's not at all what I thought.
I mean, and I'll just say to the comment from, I'm going to mispronounce this,
Mhm.
Dark should boo. First of all, I'm here for the dad jokes. Well done. Second of all, I agree. This has all the trademarks of a Ponzi scheme, right? It's sort of, and that's really the way it sounds like the PayPal story unfolds. And I really appreciated that about your article, is that this isn't, there's so much on the internet these days that you're not sure how much is sort of a confabulation of BS and fever dream and a little bit of proof points that's sprinkled over the top. You really brought the receipts, and you made it very clear that this was the result of some serious work and synthesis of material that's out there that anyone can access.
Sure.
And you really leaned on very reputable reporting, which I appreciated. And so, in essence, this is a Ponzi scheme. What happened, the story of PayPal is he didn't contribute technology, he didn't contribute business acumen, he didn't really even contribute much in the way of managing and shepherding the company towards success. He contributed some seed capital, and he got an important thing out of it, a story that he could tell that was sort of ironclad in the legal separation agreement. And he got some more money, which he was then able to spin on to his next venture. And it sounds like the story of Tesla, which you document so well in this article, is really the same darn thing. It's really the same darn thing, taking advantage of the engineering acumen of other people, injecting a little bit of money and sort of taking it in a totally like unproductive direction where he relied on the support of others, the capital of others, the brilliance of others, and sort of fell upward into his next venture.
Yeah, and your listeners might find it as interesting as I did before we get into Tesla was the company, the Zip2, before the PayPal, because when I was that was the thing. One, he didn't go to Stanford and get a PhD. He enrolled in their PhD studies and dropped out after 2 days to go start this company with his younger brother and a
Right. It's
friend.
like when Ryan Zinke, the Secretary of the Interior in the first Trump administration, claimed he was a
Mhm.
geologist, and he had taken a course once, and I don't think he completed it.
I found a rock and I looked up what it was, a
Right.
geologist now. So the story of Zip2 was when Elon was doing a college internship, a salesman had come into his employer's office to sell. They were selling a advertising space, but it wasn't just in the yellow pages. The internet was just becoming a thing, and they were also selling the equivalent. It was like the online equivalent precursor to, I don't know, Yelp or something like that. Well, Elon heard the sales pitch and he goes, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." So Zip2 was it was him and his brother and their friend Greg Corey trying to come up with their own version of this, and it was primarily Corey put in $8,000. I think Elon's mom put in 10,000. There's some disagreement over whether his dad contributed 20,000 or 28,000, which his dad says came from their emerald mine, and then his mom was paying Elon and Kimball's bills because they didn't have a job. So this whole story about I came from nothing, I pulled myself up from my own bootstraps. I don't know why it's such a common storyline that weaves through the millionaire billionaire ethos. It's not just enough to have made it big. You have to start from nothing. I don't know why they feel it's important to get that component of the story in, but it wasn't from nothing. After they had built to a significant degree, a venture capitalist company did come in and they put 3 million in. They said, but with two caveats. One, we're going to bring in our own team of engineers to rewrite this code again. If you just go stand over there, and we're going to bring in an established CEO as well. And I think it took 2 years and then to build the company up. They sold it for to I'm going to say computer. Zip2 got sold to Compaq for around 300. I think Elon netted about 22. But I wrote, it's a testament to what one man can achieve with somebody else's idea, mom's money, someone else's seed money, dad's support, venture capitalist, somebody else's leadership, somebody else's tech know-how. When you've got all those things working for you, I mean, there's really no limit to what one man can achieve. And that money was what he took and parlayed into the X.com that became PayPal. So it was the PayPal saga taught him the value of ownership, because that was that clause that he had, and he was the majority owner. I think it was almost 12% in the company. That's why when they sold to eBay, he had retained, I don't know, it was 120, 130, maybe it was an astronomical amount. And it taught him the value of ownership. So when he went to these other places, like you were saying, the storytelling aspect. So he came in, I think the first two lessons might have taught him that he didn't have the tech savvy to hang with the big boys, but he had learned the lesson that the ownership is the big financial driver. And then you can parlay the verbiage around your ownership, the CEO, the founder, to go out. You can be the front-facing person. And if you're the first person to talk to the public, they're going to listen. They're going to remember the first thing they hear. If you're the first one that gets to talk to them, you get to start spinning whatever narrative you want.
It is really quite incredible. And it does, again, I'm sure this is obvious to most people, because you can tell just from the comments here that, this is a group that's very engaged and knows what time it is, right? People know their facts, but really does bring to mind one of the most fascinating things that emerged in Trump's initial run for the White House. It wasn't his 6 bankruptcies. I mean, that's remarkable in itself. It was the fact that he had inherited $413 million from his father. And if he had merely invested it in an S&P 500 index fund, right? If he had basically just bought a wide portfolio of stocks and let it sit there, he would have been worth way more today than he actually is. He actually lost money with every move he made in business. Even the ones that are apparently successful are undervaluing just sitting back and doing nothing. It's, yes, once again, from Dark Shudbu, I apologize. It is remarkable. And yet there's such a power of this kind of, I don't know, confirmation bias, a reinforcing cycle of, you're great, you achieved this. You begin to believe your own story at a certain point. When did it become, when do you think it should have become obvious that this is someone with no particular technical or business acumen? Was it Hyperloop? Was it something else? Was there a moment in this narrative that you think just should have stood out as, this guy's pitching a stupid idea, I wonder if he's actually worth much?
The Hyperloop thing should have set off bells for people who were familiar with it. And for those...
Oh yeah, remind us what it is. Remind us this Hyperloop.
So the Hyperloop, it was a high-speed transportation system that was supposed to travel at supersonic speed. So basically, think of a vacuum tube. When you go up to a drive-through bank teller and you shoot off that little thing to the teller and it like zips up through the clear pipe.
Right, like Alaska Senator Ted Stevens pictures the internet working. Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. So picture one of those, but large enough for 24 people to sit inside of it, traveling at speeds anywhere from 700 to 1,200 miles an hour. And the initial goal was to build one from LA to San Francisco to cut that distance to a 30-minute travel time. And so it was going to be vacuum sealed. There was going to be magnets there was an air cushion and magnets were involved. And people went, this is the most genius thing. Like, electric cars, that was already a thing. He just made a slightly better electric car. SpaceX at the time, because they didn't do the reusable rocket, I don't think will happen until 2015. So at the time, all he had done was a private version of NASA, which wasn't really even a new invention. This was like this was a next level science fiction kind of Minority Report, Steven Spielberg. This is out there. This is movie production kind of stuff. And nobody knew that this idea had been around since the turn of the 19th century. The earliest known version came out in 1810.
Yeah, this is like some Jules Verne stuff.
Yes, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days. It was such that in the article, I found an old drawing from, I think it was 1823 in a British satirical magazine, because the first person that had proposed this, guys came out of the woodwork to start throwing money at it. And it was just over the years, it became a money pit. And
so Elon Musk is essentially saying, I'm the first one who came up with the Ministry of Silly Walks, and it's my idea, and it's brilliant, and it's going to get people places faster. I get it.
So yeah, he came up with an idea. They tried to build it. The closest they got, they had built it was under the SpaceX umbrella. So they were able to build like a 1.25 mile track on the SpaceX land. The fastest they could get this thing to go was like 107 miles an hour. So they were at about 15% of what he had promised. And the engineers that he had hired were like, we had no idea what all problems, we didn't know what we didn't know. Once you get out and you start trying to calculate what all is involved, the way they were talking about it, Elon hadn't been involved in any of this. He was the checkbook. Who can we bring in that has expertise that seems relevant for what we've got to attempt to do? And nobody's got experience in pneumatic people-sized banking tubes. And as they're trying to figure this out, they're like, yeah, humanity is not there yet. The things that we have to learn and teach ourselves before we're even equipped to go tackle something like this, we can't do it. And so it was apparent that one, he didn't think of this, and then he just became there were 100 people before him that went and threw money in at this technology. The concept existed and no one's figured out how to make it work. He might as well have claimed he invented the perpetual motion device.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It reminds me of that Far Side cartoon where two scientists are staring at a blackboard. There's a lot of complicated formulas up there, and in the middle of it, all the arrows, it just says, then a miracle occurred. And I see you have a little gap in your analysis there, Doctor. We're about to get to a section of the conversation that I think if we were in a courtroom or like a nice courtroom drama in a movie, the judge would say, objection calls for speculation. I'm going to ask you for some speculation here, but I think you're better placed to do it than just about anyone I know, because you're really fresh off of this kind of deep dive into the myth and the BS of Elon Musk. First of all, and I do want to loop back ultimately in a much more effective way than the Hyperloop.
Regular loop.
Yeah, just a regular loop. Okay. I do want to loop back to kind of the story of the last 24 hours and this meltdown between Musk and Trump and Navarro and what sort of the subtext there, because you also wade into it a little bit in your most recent post on your Substack. But I was speculating a little bit about what Musk's ultimate end game is here in an article. And this is, yes, I'm self-promoting. I am self-promoting here. My most recent article for Newsweek last week was about the end game for Trump and his administration and the MAGA movement. And my diagnosis, and I'll put it right in the chat here, my diagnosis is that there are really three. There are three end games, three schemes at work simultaneously. And when it came to Musk, my speculation was that the whole Curtis Yarvin dark enlightenment movement and the role of the tech elite to accelerate the collapse of the current system of American democracy. And it all sounds, again, I was referring before to one of these internet fever dreams that sounds like a conspiracy theory. And it sounds too far-fetched to be real, except, again, like you, I tried very hard to bring my receipts and to show meticulous sourcing to the Financial Times, New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, all of the reputable sources that I could find. It seems like Elon Musk has a genuine affinity for this whole dark enlightenment movement. He has a genuine belief that he really does want to melt the system down faster because it's time for a tech-infused elite to take over and to put a new system in place with him and the PayPal mafia at the top. And yes, Barbara, it's like a concept of a plan. And it's hazy, it's weird, but it seems like to him and people like him, it could be very real. It could be an actual driver. So here's where I call for speculation on your point. What do you think drives him? What do you think he's about, especially when it comes to this role he's taken in the Trump administration?
Well, I think it's multifaceted, and I think you just uncovered a big piece of it. I think the political ideology of the PayPal mafia, the Silicon Valley guys that follow Curtis Yarvin, the dark enlightenment, the tech bro, corporate fascistic, whatever you want to call it, that certainly seems to be guiding it. Especially, I don't know how much Yarvin that you've read, but he had part
as
of his
much as my stomach could take.
It's going from the ambiguous, the nebulous sort of theorizing, what if, what does it look like, to the practical, how do we implement? He had this, it was called RAGE, RAGE, is an acronym that stood for Retire All Government Employees. And you go, this is one of the first steps that we've got to do. If we're going to come in and offer private solutions to everything, we've got to break as much as we can. And you do that by getting all the gatekeepers who are the civil servants, the experts in their field. We got to get them out of the way. And what is Doge doing? He's going in there. He's doing the same thing he did to Twitter. He came in just firing anybody, and then ready, fire, aim. Oh, we needed nuclear experts. Let's bring them back. But Twitter, he's, oh, you need people who know how to code the algorithm. Let's see if we can get them to come back. And there's he's following Curtis Yarvin's blueprints a little close for me to think it's accidental. I do think there's some ideology there. I also think what we touched on before, the starting to believe his own hype, because it was the gentleman that had written his biography.
Oh, yeah.
Said Elon wants the world to be saved, but only if he's the one that can do it. So it seems like he's got a bit of a messiah complex, where he'd rather break a thing than have somebody else be lauded as the hero that fixed it. And because he doesn't really have the intellect or the mentality that so many people think he has. I think deep down, just like Trump knows he's an imposter, I think Elon knows he's an imposter. And people like that, the only way you can elevate yourself to the top when you don't have the acumen to scramble your way up and get there is to drag as many other people down below you, squash them down to raise yourself up. I don't see, in my head, that seems like what we're looking at.
And I should say that for people, obviously I'm pitching my own article here, but for people who want another one of the kind of deep dives that you specialize in, you actually wrote about kind of the background of, you call it Democracy Has Done the Rise of the Corporate Monarchy, outlines all of the Curtis Yarvin stuff. It's, again, like very much like your DNA of how you do these things. It's just a great deep dive on it. Let me connect another dot over for you. Again, going to call for a little bit of speculation on your part. Your most recent piece from nary 14 hours ago is called Trump's Retaliatory Tariff Math, with math and air quotes. The more you understand it, the less sense it makes. And you're making a point that, I mean, you're not alone in making, that like he has this, I mean, it's like you asked ChatGPT, hey, what's a simple kind of dumbass way to come up with some tariffs? And they said, well, here's the answer. But you are also kind of picking apart, like, the presentation was remarkably amateurish. It was just down to, like, why didn't they alphabetize the countries or sort? Like, sort is a feature in Excel that you can use in various fields, and it's useful for putting things in an order that human beings can comprehend. It just seems to be so completely, they're not even trying to make it seem like they had a thoughtful approach to this. And this kind of touches, again, I'm asking for your speculation here, but it touches on this question that I've had in my mind of, are we perhaps all engaged as we try to work through this onslaught of tariffs, this kind of like Mad King moment for Donald Trump that surpasses all of his other Mad King moments? Are we in danger of, by applying intelligent ideas from other people, that maybe you could squint and sort of glom onto what he's doing? Are we sort of in danger of falling into the same trap that we've allowed ourselves to fall into that's fueled Trump's entire rise, and to your point, Elon Musk's entire rise? Are we sane washing Trump by even trying to interpret what he's doing here? Or is it possible that he's just a giant dysfunctional id walking around who happens to be our president?
Oh, I think the truth is probably closer to the latter.
I may trademark that giant walking id thing. I'm kind of fond of it.
I mean, it's a fact of human nature that we all do projection, and they say when the Trump administration is talking, it's every accusation is an admission. They're just telling us what they did or what they're planning to do. As humans, as a species, I think we do that, and I think if you're inclined to sit and ponder on what are the objectives, what's the motivation, where are they coming from, that's has a certain degree of intellect behind it, just that exercise. And you sort of project that the enemy or the opponent, the subject that you're analyzing is operating similarly. And the reality is, the more they show us, the more apparent it is that we're dealing with, like you said, with children. It is the analogy I made before, for the people who've raised kids, you could probably remember sending your 5-year-old to go clean their room, and you come in there and say, "Is it done?" And they say, "Yeah." And there's nothing on the bed, but there's a pile underneath the rug in the middle of the thing that's 2.5 feet high. And you're like, "Did you think that was going to fool me? What's under there?"
Shay, I literally had this moment last night with my 11-year-old. We bought one of those $40 on Amazon like foam roll pads because he's got a crappy mattress. He has a bad mattress. It's really uncomfortable. So we got him this foam to put under the sheet, and there's a pile of picked off pieces of foam next to his bed. It's like he's gnawing his way through it like a rat. And I mean, I love my son, but this is functionally what he's doing. And I said, "Son, have you been picking this thing apart?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah." "Okay, dude, let's clean this up." And he's okay. And then he just goes on about his business. I'm like, "No, I kind of meant like, now let's go ahead and clean this up." Anyway, yes, it reminds me so much of the mentality going on here. A reminder to people who weren't at the top of the show that, yes, this is Cliff Schecter's live stream. I'm Matt Robison. I made this joke already. He's Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar. He's lurking behind me in a tesseract-like space behind my bookshelf. He's going to pop out occasionally, probably going like this at the time, onto the show as a guest, as a host. I'll try to hold the fort down. He is just in the midst of a media blitz as he launches his Substack show. For the time being, I will hold down the fort here. I hope you will all come back week after week. I hope you will go and subscribe over on Substack to the Trumpland Diary. I was going to shill for another one of your outstanding articles. I'm just gonna give a taste of it. Your headline here, this is from several weeks ago. Trump's spiritual advisor is running a $1,000 Passover grift. White House spiritual advisor Paula White is selling angels. This is the kind of stuff that you really need to go to Substack, and you bring all the receipts for this one as well. By the way, this person, the spiritual advisor, is married to the keyboardist from Journey. You cannot make this stuff up.
You can't.
This is it's delightful stuff. So I hope people will subscribe over to the Trumpland Diary. And I am now launching on Substack myself. My Substack is called Worth Knowing. I'm Matt Robison, not Robinson, Robison. And Shane Almgren, you can also find on Substack as well. One commenter mentioned that Worth Knowing, there's another Substack called Worth Knowing, and mine is technically in there as Worth Knowing with Matt Robison. All right. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe I can sort that out with the good folks at Substack. Regardless, that is the end of my rant. Shane, thank you so much for being on. The article's outstanding. Keep up the good work. What are you working on? What's next?
I'm doing a deep dive into Peter Thiel's Palantir and all the different tentacles in government that is part of.
I'm confident. I'm 100% confident that it will be well worth everyone's time. This is stuff. Look, I called my Substack Worth Knowing because I really believe that there's stuff out there that's interesting and fun and presented in an upbeat, engaging way. It doesn't feel like a chore to read. That's the way your Substack reads. And it's just one of these topics that is worth knowing about. So we will sign off here. Thanks so much to Shane. I will hopefully see all of you back here next week at this time. Take care.
Thanks a lot.